Game week 21 has passed and another very swingy week. Let's have a look at how my team done in 21 and my early transfer plans heading into game week 22. But before we get started, make sure you guys like this video because that would be greatly appreciated. Comment your thoughts on my early transfer plans heading into game week 22 and obviously subscribe to the channel. But I wanted to start off this video by talking about rank and overall just how people are doing, because I saw a good tweet by FPL Prize, who, if you guys don't know, is a brilliant FPL player. Consistently hits top 50k. He runs a channel called FPL Wire with Late Riser and Zoff. Unbelievable content. But he's currently ranked around 1.7 million. And I kind of saw that tweet and it just got me thinking on how, listen, a lot of people, I would probably say including myself, are struggling in FPL this year. And I feel like we have to take into consideration, are we making some bad decisions? 100%. If I was making good decisions, I'd probably be first in the world. But at the same time, we have to understand the element of luck that goes into FPL. Because, for example, I feel like this is a move that I think a lot of people made, which was Thiago to Ekatike a couple weeks ago. And that, listen, has been extremely swingy in terms of Thiago's got 5 goals in his last 2 games. The point where a lot of people saw Thiago, that run of 6 games, I think Thiago was blanking. His underlying data wasn't looking good. Ekatike was going into good fixtures. Ekatike's underlying data was looking incredible. Isak was injured. And look how that scenario has played out. I think over the last 2 weeks, Thiago's got nearly like 29 points, I think it is. Or he might have got even more, to be honest. Like, it has been incredible if you have been a Thiago owner. If you've been an Ekatike owner like myself, I feel like I've been very unfortunate. But at the same time, regarding rank, the point I really wanted to make is, listen, rank obviously for a lot of people is not ideal, where we might be in these certain like situations at this point of the season. But at the same time, I feel like it's very important to remember, we all maybe think about the worst case scenario every single time. For example, this week I had a game week rank of 6 million. Some people might have had worse. But at the same time, a lot of luck has gone into that. At the same time, luck can also go in our favor, where there might be a week where, hopefully it happens soon anyway, I might have a game week rank of in the top 300k. And then all of a sudden, you're on a big green arrow. All of a sudden, the outlook of how your season's going can change very quickly. So I think that's very important to remember. And remember, the second half of the season, this is where we have blanks. This is where we have doubles. This is where, if you're planning your team very well, you are more naturally going to be rewarded. Hopefully anyway. Which is one thing that I've always said, the second half of the season is where you make a lot of gains. So listen, a lot of people, if you guys are not happy with your ranks, just be patient. If you guys are making good decisions, hopefully the outcome will follow. But anyway, that's just something that I wanted to talk about regarding game week rank, or just over rank in general, and how people are, let's say, looking at, let's say, content creators, not even content creators, their own ranks, let's say. But anyway, let's start with how my team done in game week 21. And as you guys know, I'm currently set up in the back 5 because Ekatike didn't play, which was obviously the risk I was going to take. Luckily for me, Joe Rodon was in the squad for Leeds and he got that 1 point out. But let's start with Dubravka. Dubravka got 3 points against Manchester United. And listen, Manchester United, especially in the second half, did create chances. At the same time, Dubravka, 6 saves, relatively happy with that. Verbruggen, 3 points against Manchester City as well. So that was the dilemma. I went with Dubravka. I'm happy with that decision. Defense, I'll be honest, when we talk about luck, I think I got extremely lucky in how this scenario turned out this week in terms of Liverpool-Arsenal 0-0 draw. Gabriel 6 points, Timber 6 points, Van Dijk 6 points. Regarding the game, I think in terms of the game, listen, I think a 0-0 draw was a fair result. I don't think any team created enough. If we're looking at Arsenal, the only real, let's say, big chance, Gabriel's header at the end, there was a ball that Saka played across and no one was there. If we're looking at it from a Liverpool point of view, that Conor Bradley's chance to hit the crossbar. But other than that, both teams did not create anywhere near enough. So, again, 0-0 result. Happy with that. Regarding Liverpool's performance, as I said, Liverpool over the last couple of weeks have been a lot more defensive since, let's say, Mo Salah's gone to AFCON. Probably a bit before that as well. In terms of their approach to games, they're a lot less open. They're a lot harder to, let's say, create chances against. But at the same time, I thought Alexis McAllister, that's his name, innit? Had a brilliant game. Now, McAllister is someone that I think this season hasn't been the best for Liverpool. I was surprised when Curtis Jones wasn't in the team sheet going into the game. But I think McAllister deserved a lot of credit in terms of how he performed against a very, very good midfield against Arsenal in the likes of Declan Rice, Odegaard. So listen, full credit to McAllister, full credit to Liverpool for getting a point at Arsenal. Listen, I don't think Arsenal done enough, but I'll talk about them a bit more regarding Bukayo Saka. Joachim Andersen, again, Chelsea, Fulham. It was a very, very interesting game in terms of that's obviously a London derby. Fulham, let's say Chelsea got a man sent off again. Cucurella, I'll be honest, very, very silly from Cucurella, especially of a man of that experience just getting that red. It was just silly. But listen, Fulham done well. Joachim Andersen did not get DEFCON. He actually got 8 DEFCON. Regarding DEFCON and Joachim Andersen, I don't think necessarily when Fulham set up in the back three is probably the most ideal. Because think about it, you have one extra centre back. The other, let's say, wider centre backs in the likes of Issa Diop and Cuenca, I think that's how you pronounce it, can be a bit more aggressive in terms of getting onto balls. So that's obviously not ideal, even though, listen, Fulham are not going to set that way going forward anyway on a consistent basis. And like I said, Joe Rodon 1 point now. That game, Newcastle Leeds game, that's probably one of the games of the season. End-to-end drama, goals right at the end with Harvey Barnes. I'm just happy Joe Rodon's back because, as I said, I needed him this week just in case Ekatike missed out, and he was there. 1 point is better than 0 points. But anyway, let's have a look at how the midfield, and I'll be honest, this was far from ideal again. Let's start by talking about Bukayo Saka. And I'll be honest, when I was watching the Arsenal-Liverpool game yesterday, I thought the first 30 minutes, Bukayo Saka was a constant threat, and I was like, listen, how has Bukayo Saka not returned? Like, the only thought I had in my mind was, Bukayo Saka's playing this well, watch Declan Rice get a 15-pointer. That was the only thought in my mind, because that's how I feel like the season's gone. But listen, Bukayo Saka, the first 30 minutes, I think he had the better of Kirkes. I think the second half, especially, I think Kirkes had the better of Saka. Obviously, Saka got that early sub again, not ideal. But that's just something that we know. Arsenal just have so much depth, and especially in a game like yesterday, where everything wasn't coming off Arsenal. Someone like Madueke, who also had a great chance when he put in a ball across. Arteta can make those sort of subs, which is very, very frustrating, but something that we have to know. But regarding Bukayo Saka, like I said, his performances, especially in the first 30 minutes, had been good enough to get more returns. That's why, like, I just feel so uneasy, even though, listen, Declan Rice is definitely better money, value for money right now. But I just feel so uneasy selling Saka, because when I'm watching him, Saka's performing relatively well. And it's similar to Timber. When I was watching the Arsenal-Liverpool game, and this has always been the case with Timber, when you're looking at the positions Timber is picking up, honestly, you'll be confused how Timber hasn't got more returns. Because I was watching that game yesterday and I'm like, listen, his execution in that final pass could have been a lot better at times. But listen, he's literally playing alongside Gyökeres at times on the right-hand side. Bukayo Saka's the one holding the ball. Timber's the one coming inside. Listen, it is what it is with FPL. Sometimes it can be very frustrating. But sometimes it can go your way. In terms of James Garner, obviously James Garner was who I brought in with Carlos Alcaraz out 2 weeks ago. And he's got me 6 points this week, 4 points last week. Very happy with that, to be honest. James Garner, listen, he got DEFCON. Again, I think he managed to get 16 defensive contributions, which is something that we know. And he obviously got 2 bonus after the update, which was obviously very nice. And something that I wanted to talk about was that Everton-Wolves game in a bit more detail was, remember going into this week when we obviously look at market odds, Everton had a 40% chance of keeping a clean sheet, which was the highest going into this week. And I obviously had the chance to get in Tarkowski for Virgil van Dijk using 1 free transfer, but I decided not to. Because one of the reasons that I had was going against that Everton defence was I generally thought Wolves had been playing well over the last couple of games. Now, I know Wolves haven't been great this season, 1 win, but they obviously came off a win against West Ham. Their performance against Manchester United was obviously very good. And even their performance against Arsenal a couple weeks ago where Arsenal got that late winner. Like, when I was watching those 90-minute games of Wolves, I was like, this team is not that bad as the league table shows. So I felt like there was an opportunity for Wolves to get something. And obviously, Mane got that goal, which he took very, very well. And listen, another thing I said, Everton's underlying data defensively, they have been very fortunate to get clean sheets over the last couple of games. Like, they were conceding a good amount of XG, but they still managed to get a clean sheet. So I was willing to take that risk on. And that's where, listen, when we talk about luck, an element of luck went my way this week regarding that. Phil Foden, 2 points. Very frustrating. Now, this is obviously going to be a player that a lot of people are probably looking to sell in the coming weeks. He has Manchester United next. I probably wouldn't sell him for that. He always has a good record against United. A week after that is Wolves. So the next two fixtures on paper are very, very attractive as a Phil Foden owner. But at the same time, we're seeing Manchester City, going through a very interesting period now where they got in Semenyo. Turkey started on the bench. So that was very, very interesting in terms of there's going to be points where Turkey, Foden, Doku, Semenyo are all fit. All four of them cannot play. So how do now minutes get managed where Semenyo has the, let's say, luxury where he can play left and right. Turkey can obviously play on the right and he can play a bit more centrally. Bernardo Silva, by the way, is someone that always managed to start for Manchester City. He started 17 games out of 21 so far. And Bernardo Silva was the one keeping width in a game like this against Brighton. And he was doing relatively well, to be fair. Especially the first half, which I watched. So that is just something to know where we might see reduced minutes with Phil Foden going forward, which is obviously not ideal. So maybe if you guys are thinking about selling Phil Foden in coming weeks, it's not a bad shout. Cunha, 2 points. Again, very, very poor performance from Cunha in terms of he started on the right-hand side, if you guys didn't see, for Manchester United. Dorgu started on the left, which is no surprise, or actually was a massive surprise. But Cunha's performances this season haven't been great, and it was similar again against Burnley. He didn't really do much in the first half from, let's say, positively. Like, he was very, very bad. All his touches were very heavy, dribbling into trouble. It was a poor performance, and especially, listen, he hasn't really played much football on the right-hand side. I just thought that ruined, let's say, his FPL potential going into this week. But other than that, the second half performance for Manchester United was a lot better. Bruno Fernandes is obviously someone that a lot of people are going to have on their radar. Play number 10. He probably will play furthest forward in the midfield, even if Carrick or Solskjaer or Rude, Fletcher, whoever gets appointed, he will play number 10. So that is obviously someone that a lot of people are going to be looking at. Matheus Cunha might be a sell in coming weeks, but I'll talk about him in a bit more detail coming up. And obviously the attack, Erling Haaland got his goal. Actually had a lot of shots in the game. I think he had 8 shots, which, listen, as an Erling Haaland owner, I'm not going to complain, but I always feel like Van Hecke and Erling Haaland, I know Sky Sports pointing it out, they always have a very, very good battle when they come up against one another. So, listen, he got his goal. He probably should have had more looking at the chances he had. But at the same time, I don't think Manchester City against Brighton, Manchester City looked great. And I'm going to talk about it a bit more regarding Minte, because obviously, regarding Cunha, regarding the damage that I think Cunha could do against Manchester City. But let's have a look. Now, I am on Plan FPL, like I always say, a brilliant free to use tool just to plan how your team is looking at for future weeks. I've got 2 free transfers. And something I said in the last section was I wanted to talk about Cunha's prospects against Manchester City. Because I watched the Manchester City Brighton game, especially in that first half, which I got to watch in full. I was not impressed with Manchester City. Like, I thought the chances that Brighton created were very, very good. Brighton, I was looking at the XG and the chances created after the game. Brighton managed to create 5 big chances against Manchester City. The execution was probably not the best. For example, they had Kaggioglu, I think that's how you pronounce his name, playing further forward. On another day, if that's, let's say, Mbeumo for Manchester United or another better player for Brighton, someone like a Minte, I feel like they would have caused Manchester City a lot more problems and probably could have won the game. I was not impressed by Manchester City in terms of how they defended transitions. I thought Brighton played extremely, extremely well, so full credit to them. So now I know a lot of people will probably be looking to sell Matheus Cunha. Manchester City next, Arsenal after that. But there's just something about me in terms of the way Brighton played, looking at how Manchester United potentially could set up with maybe Cunha on the left and Mbeumo if he's back from AFCON, if not someone else, or maybe Dorgu, that can cause Manchester City problems. And obviously, like we know, it's a Manchester derby. Manchester United are still, let's say, going to have either Darren Fletcher or Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in charge where, listen, especially if it's Ole's first game, the feel-good factor around Manchester United, they could obviously get a performance. So there is just something about that I just don't want to sell Matheus Cunha. Another reason is Manchester City set up with Kusanov and Max Alien. I don't know how you pronounce the name, the guy that was on loan to Watford. You're looking at Benjamin Sesko, who's aerially very good, who wins a lot of his, like, let's say, first flick-ons kind of thing, innit? First draw. Could that be an area where Manchester United go on to Sesko, the second balls, Matheus Cunha, Bruno Fernandes, if they could win, they can cause Manchester City problems? I think so. Listen, I still think Manchester City are favourites of the game, which is why Erling Haaland is probably going to be my captain. But I just look at that fixture and I just think stylistically, Matheus Cunha, I just feel like could do damage. Regarding the rest of my team for Gameweek 22, though, you got Verbruggen against Bournemouth, relatively happy with that. Timber, Gabriel against Nottingham Forest away, I'm always happy with double Arsenal defence. Virgil van Dijk, who are obviously kept for so long. 2 clean sheets in the last 3 games, by the way. With Burnley at home next. We've already spoke about Cunha. Garner against Aston Villa, who continuously gets DEFCON. Saka against Nottingham Forest. Foden against Manchester United. Minte, again, missed out. But I feel like that Bournemouth at home game, if Minte's fully fit for that game, I don't want to sell him. I just look at that game again and think, listen, Bournemouth away, when they play away from home, had been very bad this season. Their defensive data is not good. They've obviously lost Semenyo now, confirmed good goal to Manchester City. So they're not realistically going to have that player that can, let's say, drag the ball forward, win a foul, because he's that sort of character for Bournemouth. He's their main talisman. Let's see how Bournemouth set up now, especially Kluivert's out as well, who I think has those similar sort of traits to Semenyo in terms of he has that personality on the football pitch to try and win the game for himself. So I'm looking at Minte against Bournemouth, and I just think this could be stylistically a good matchup for him to get points. Now, if he's not fit, it's not great. But as we know, Brighton obviously have an FA Cup game this week, or everyone has an FA Cup this week. They play Manchester United. So hopefully Minte's in the squad at least. We should know that against Bournemouth, there is a good possibility that he could start. And if he does, I'm probably going to keep him. And obviously Haaland has United and Ekatike against Burnley. Now, it seems like the Ekatike injury is a bit more long-term than what we originally would have thought. So that's obviously something that we have to think about. But if he's fully fit for the game, or even if there's a chance that he gets 60 minutes, 60 minutes against Burnley at home, you're going to take it. So I feel like my team's in a very good state this week. I say that, and I'll probably get 3 injuries in the cup games, but it's looking not too bad. I've obviously finally got a couple players that on my bench can come in. Joachim Anderson against Leeds away, Rodon against Fulham at home. So I don't think this is a bad week to roll, but there's obviously a couple players that I'm thinking about for coming weeks. One of them being Enzo Fernandez. Enzo Fernandez, obviously we know Chelsea's got on a great run of fixtures. His data is still looking very, very good. He's still getting himself into chances. And I thought the setup by Chelsea, which I probably should have discussed before, was very interesting in terms of Enzo Fernandez played in the 10. Palmer was out wide. Now, a lot of people might say, oh, like the new manager might come in, see something different. But the current Chelsea manager in that time was that Callum, the one that came through from the under-21s, the caretaker manager. He's still staying as part of Liam Rosnia, I think that's how you pronounce his name, coaching staff. So I think Liam Rosnia, however you pronounce his name, was in Callum's ear saying this is how ideally he wants to set up. So I do feel like going forward, we are going to see a lot of Cole Palmer on the right, Enzo in the 10. So there's just that temptation. And we also know Santos was at Strasbourg last year working with the manager. That was Andres Santos from Chelsea had a brilliant season there. He's obviously going to prefer to work with someone that knows his system, let's say the new manager. So Santos' minutes should look very, very good, which only means Enzo can play in the 10. So Enzo is definitely someone on my radar, not only for this Brentford at home game if I don't roll, but in coming weeks up to Burnley at home in 27. Obviously, Cole Palmer is someone that I do want to have in my mind. And also, as you guys know, Bruno Fernandes is arguably one of the most well-rounded FPL assets in the game kind of thing, isn't it? So what are my transfer plans? I think if I don't, let's say if I roll this week, that's how my team is going to look like. Game week 23, again, Cunha against Arsenal, not ideal, but I do feel like that game stylistically is a lot tougher. So that week, I don't mind going to Cunha, to Enzo. Even though Enzo has Crystal Palace away, you probably, let's say, think Crystal Palace away is the easier fixture, definitely from an attacking point of view. But that's just something to consider. Game week 24 is when a lot of people are obviously considering to play the wild card, which I understand because there's a lot of fixture swings. I've got free transfers if I obviously do make that Enzo move the previous week. So what would those 3 moves consist of? Now, Phil Foden has Tottenham away. Manchester City always seem to struggle against Tottenham. But I think this is the week that I probably do take out Phil Foden and I do bring in Bruno Fernandes, who I want. Manchester United's fixtures, again, not the best, not the worst. Fulham, Tottenham, West Ham, Everton, Crystal Palace. But at the same time, Bruno Fernandes can get returns against any single team because he's a quality player. But that would also leave me with 1.4 million in the bank. Now, I still have Minty in my team. And I do want Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer for this run, it depends. If he's playing, if his minutes look good, is someone that I'm obviously considering. West Ham, Wolves, Leeds, Burnley. The upside is so high. 3 home fixtures. I want Cole Palmer. Then I have one transfer in the bank and I'm 3.1 million down in terms of how much I actually have to spend. Ekatike can go, which is obviously someone that I do want to get rid of long term. And I have 5.7 million in the bank. So there are a couple of options. A lot of people might not like this, but I am just thinking, let me just go to that 4-5-1 structure. Krupi Jr., who has Wolves this week, who listen, with Semenyo gone, he could actually even start this game, which is not a bad fixture. But just committing to this 4-5-1 structure, keeping Bukayo Saka, because if you guys don't know, there is a possibility that Arsenal might double in game 26 if they get through to the Carabao Cup final. Who, listen, if Arsenal get through to that point, I do want Bukayo Saka. I do probably want to captain him. So that's how my team will look like for game week 24, which is not bad using all my free transfers. And listen, I know some people probably talk about the wild card, but I just feel like I don't feel like my team is in a bad state. I feel like some of the decisions I made have been extremely swingy. I don't think they deserve the swing, for example, like the Ekatike Thiago thing. But regarding the rest of my team, I don't think he's in a horrible state. I think game week 24, if I can get to this point with 1.1 currently in the bank, is not bad. Then obviously Virgil van Dijk will have to go. I probably do want to upgrade, let's say, Joe Rodon to a better fifth defender and just rotate that 4-5-1 shape, let's say. But it's not bad. It's really not bad. But anyway, listen, those are just my early transfer plans. There are a couple other plays that I'm thinking of, by the way. Tavernier from Bournemouth obviously has to be under consideration. Probably will take penalties. Minutes look good. Decent on DEFCON. Probably will take some set pieces. He's also under consideration just for that cheaper midfield option. But for now, I'm probably going to roll next week anyway, depending if there's any injuries. Remember, there's a lot of games from now until when the game week 22 deadline is. And game week 24, ideally, I want my team to be in that state. Probably without Virgil van Dijk, to be honest. I might take a hit anyway, just to get rid of him. But anyway, that's how my team will hopefully look like in the future. Let me know what you guys think, and we'll be back soon.